Konnichiwa, my name is Logan Charles Luna, and this video is going to be the last video of 2021 that I make. And I was thinking for a while, what is going to be my favorite thing of 2021? And I was going back and forth between Spider-Man, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, The Witcher, and other stuff. However, I finally settled on Megalo Box Season 2 Nomad. And the reason is simply because it was the best anime I've seen in such a long time. So it's not like an anime original. Like Megalo Box is based off of Ashirato no Joe, which is, Tomorrow's Joe. And it's a manga series that had an anime, and it's about a boxer, very close to what Megalo Box is about. Takes a little, the original manga and anime took a different tone with it. It was serious, but you had a bit more fun. This one, no. The Megalo Box is just pain. That's all it is. It's just pain, depression, and they really ramped it up in Nomad. And Nomad was strangely a Western style movie more than an anime. And to explain that, so you can go watch my review video on Megalobox, because I'm not gonna rehash stuff I've already said on the series, or just go watch the series. It's really good. It's on Funimation, and I think Hulu has it as well, like Funimation on Hulu. So the reason Megalobox, beat out JoJo's Bizarre Adventure anime is because the anime for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure had more faults to it than Megalobox did. So, Stone Ocean, the first 12 episodes that dropped on Netflix were great. But, as time went on, the nostalgia of reading Stone Ocean and the pure joy of finally getting another 3D opening in JoJo's, that was cool. So then that faded away. And once my more analytical brain started taking over, it was rushed. The production was messy at times. The CGI wasn't blended that well. It was the same CGI from the opening, which made it stand out more, because you could recognize the CGI that they were using. So the main problem with season 2 of The Witcher was just that it dragged on a bit in parts. It really dragged on. There were moments where I was just thinking, I read the books, I played the games. Can I just fast forward right now? But I didn't, because I wanted to, really give it a shot and fully experience it, like I did with season 1. And season 1 also had its problems. But I will say this, Henry Cavill is amazing. And actually, I don't know if the rights still belong to Netflix for a live action Berserk. Yeah, I know they fucked up the anime really bad. Why would they, they shouldn't be able to make a live action. Some of those movies were good, but Netflix really, they have no goodwill with the anime community anymore, especially after the debacle that was the live action Cowboy Bebop. in making these live actions, the reason that One Piece is still, regarded as this might work is because, the creator is actually involved. So if it doesn't work, it was kind of his fault. And not solely on Netflix, but Netflix does tend to be stingy with the budget. And there were parts in The Witcher where you could kind of tell that the budget was running out, and they're like, no, we can't do that, so we're just going to cut to this instead. But I really think that Henry Cavill would have made a great live action Guts, especially seeing him swing his sword around in The Witcher. Like, just imagine he's got the Dragon Slayer and swinging that shit around. And, I still argue that Robert Pattinson, he would have been an amazing live action Griffin. Like, he would have been really great. But, enough of stuff that will inevitably happen. Like, it's inevitable. Because Netflix wants money. And if not Netflix, someone else, because I think Dark Horse is selling to a company right now, and the sale will be final next year, so I don't know, they might want like a live action Berserk. Maybe that's why the whole stuff with Kentaro Miura is still undecided, because it's strange. So yes, unfortunately this year Kentaro Miura did pass away, and we found out about it a few weeks later out of respect to the family to give them time to grieve. And that was cool. And then there was a weird, maybe it'll be back statement from the publisher. I think it's Shonen Animal or Young Animal or one of those. But they have an entire studio which Kentaro Miura created specifically to test them to see if they could continue Berserk. Because Kentaro Miura was already having health problems. Like, him dying wasn't as out of the blue as people thought. He was, battling certain health concerns for a while now. And that's a bit of a drawback that happens at times, because making manga, you definitely push yourself to your body's limit because you want to get it done in time. You want to get everything to look just right. And Kentaro Miura was a perfectionist, and he would, even in the digital age when they upgraded to digital to hope to make it a faster way to work the manga, Kentaro Miura actually would zoom in and analyze to see if every little pixel was, if it looked right. And yes, that sounds absolutely crazy. But that was the kind of person Kentaro Miura was. And now it's in limbo. Are they going to continue Berserk? Is Berserk just going to end? And to be honest, if it ends, I'll be okay with that. I'll be perfectly fine with Berserk ending. Because, Kentaro Miura did all he could do on it. If they come back, then I'll be okay with that, because Kentaro Miura set up an entire studio of people working on another manga as a test to see if they could continue Berserk. So maybe that's what's going on right now. Maybe the higher-ups at the publishing company or the family is taking a look at all the works, and maybe they're getting a few drafts and they're seeing whether or not this lives up to Kentaro Miura's standard of what he wanted for his story. So I'm just here at the end of the year, and Spider-Man was cool. Spider-Man No Way Home. It was cool. It was very fan servicey, and to break it down to like wrestling fan terms, felt very house show. Like, oh, something happened, but did it really happen? Is this gonna stick? Is this how they set things up? I'm not gonna make like a big Spider-Man video. I'm just gonna dump all my thoughts right here. So, Spider-Man, as a fan of Spider-Man, not just the movies, the comic books, the Super Sentai live action show from the 70s, as most of you who follow this channel know. I fucking love Japanese 1977 Spider-Man. He's amazing. But, Spider-Man has been through ups and downs. The animated series, definitely for sure. And most people remember the animated series. Nowadays, most people have like 3 different animated series they can pick from where it's like, oh, when I was a kid, I watched this one. Oh, yeah, well, I watched this one. And of course, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. But here's the thing. There are a lot of fake Andrew Garfield fans. And to that I say, like, I never blamed Andrew Garfield. The movie sucked. It wasn't his fault. He did his job. You can only do so much when you're given a mediocre script for a movie that was too ambitious. And by that I mean, trying to make everything tie back in to Peter's family having a secret, Uncle Ben not really being that much of a big deal, watching him die right in front of him. And the fact that Peter got 2 of those in the first movie, where it's like it was Captain Stacy and Uncle Ben just kind of piecing out right in front of him, it felt very underwhelming. And that had nothing to do with Andrew Garfield. But all of a sudden now that like Andrew Garfield is on this role of, oh man, he's such a good actor, people are coming out of the woodwork to be like, I always loved Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. And it's like, no, you didn't. That's why Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is ranked the lowest. Not just because people don't think his movies are good, but because his movies didn't make that much money. Like, the second one did way worse than the first one. And that's why they had to pull the plug on that one and just kind of gave it to Marvel. And there were problems and complications with that as well. And of course, Kevin Feige has always been a big part of Spider-Man. He was an assistant on the Sam Raimi ones. He was, I think, producer on The Amazing Spider-Man. And now, he gets to play with all the toys. There were a lot of plot holes in Spider-Man No Way Home. There were a lot of Easter eggs. It wasn't a perfect movie. And it wasn't even the best Spider-Man movie. But it was fun. It was a good time. And it hopefully reminded people what Spider-Man is supposed to be. He's not supposed to be like, oh, the working man's hero or a blue-collar hero who's a broke college kid. No, Spider-Man is supposed to be someone who struggles. He's someone that's got his own problems and his own things going on. And to be honest, Spider-Man is miserable. Because Peter Parker is miserable if his life is going according to plan. As Spider-Man, Peter Parker suffers. And you could definitely see, by the way, spoilers, this movie made $1 billion. Like, fuck off. Like, if you haven't seen it, or if you like still avoiding spoilers, Whatever, get out of here. But yeah, that's why he doesn't try to remind Ned and MJ who he is, because he sees that bandage over her eyebrow, like the scar, and he asks if it hurt and if she's okay, and she says, "Yeah, I'm okay now," and it doesn't hurt anymore. So that really hit Peter hard, because Peter couldn't protect Aunt May, and you saw that. So he never wanted to put MJ or Ned in that situation, because now he realized more than ever that he's not the perfect superhero. He teamed up with the Avengers and went to space, and there was retconning and fixing a lot of previous mistakes, because it was like the same writers and directors from the last Spider-Man movie, and they wanted to do an entirely different Spider-Man movie, but then Sony came in with their big dick trying to be intimidating to everyone. Kevin Feige just told them to give Sony what they wanted. They changed stuff up. The other Spider-Man came into play. All in all, this entire trilogy accidentally turned into a Spider-Man origin story. Spider-Man was just a kid. There may or may not have been an Uncle Ben in the Marvel Universe. They keep saying that there, wasn't this, wasn't that. Like, there was no Oscorp. And they confirmed it in this movie. Like, there's no Oscorp, because they've got their own shit going on. And, Spider-Man has always been about doing the right thing. And I'm so glad that Marissa Tomei finally said the right line: with great power, there must come great responsibility. Like, that's the line. That's the actual line from the comics. Like, everyone's been doing the Darth Vader thing, where instead of "No, Luke, I am your father," people just go, "Luke, I am your father." And, it was sad. And people, how many times do you want to see Uncle Ben die? Honestly, like, it's like Batman. Seriously, Spider-Man and Batman not only are like the two greatest superheroes of all time, their origin story has been overdone to death at this point. So I'm kind of glad they like stretched out this Spider-Man's origin story and they mixed it up. It was Aunt May who died, and the Green Goblin killed her the same way Green Goblin killed Gwen Stacy. But it was such a heartbreaking moment, because Aunt May didn't know she was dying. She's like, "Oh, let me just catch my breath. Like, I'm fine. I just got knocked down." Peter knows that she's dying. And it's a great callback to when Peter is dying on the planet in Infinity War and he's getting dusted away. And he's like, "Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good." And he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" Tony knows what's going on, but Peter doesn't. And that role reversal was, heartbreaking. Like, Peter has to basically comfort Aunt May as she dies, but she doesn't know she's dying, and he's freaking out. And he can't lose any more people in his life, not only because of his family, but because of what happened with Tony. Peter was right there when Tony died. And the entire second movie, Far From Home, was Peter Parker is greatly affected by the death of Tony Stark, because Tony Stark was his father figure, and Spider-Man always has these father figures. And maybe now, again, fuck off for any spoilers, maybe Matt Murdock, Daredevil, will be his new father figure now that he's a street level Spider-Man again. He's living in a shitty apartment. He's probably working a 9 to 5 job. And, he's just being the neighborhood Spider-Man with his more comic book accurate costume than all the other Spider-Man that he had to make on his own. because he doesn't have Stark Tech anymore. No one's helping him. No one knows who he is. And that's really the heartbreaking moment, because when he's in the cemetery with Happy, Happy asks, "Oh, how do you know May Parker?" And Peter holds back the tears and says, "Because of Spider-Man," because he realized at that moment, if May survived, she wouldn't know who Peter Parker is. She wouldn't know that he's her nephew. He would still be alone because he would try to protect her. And this lonely isolation, it comes with the sacrifice of doing the right thing. As Green Goblin said, no good deed goes unpunished. And I just want to say, William Dafoe really, that movie is as amazing as people have been touting it to be, because of William Dafoe, because of the stuff with the other villains, because of Andrew Garfield, because of Tobey Maguire, because on its own, this is just kind of a mid movie. Another mid Marvel movie that they just pumped out, but with all these other elements added to it, it really made something cool. And I hope that they get to do Kraven the Hunter in the next one, as they wanted to do for this one. And maybe the black suit will be integrated, because at the end there was a thing where Tom Hardy and Venom fuck off back to their universe, but they leave a little bit of the symbiote behind. And maybe Peter gets attached to that and he relies on that. Kind of like a crutch, where I need this in order to beat Kraven, but really he needs it in order to end his isolation, because the symbiote talks to him. The symbiote understands him. And I just, I'm looking forward to that, because Tom Holland is the best live action version of not just Spider-Man, Peter Parker. And they really got it right. And now they're doing the college years, they're aging him appropriately. They're not just skipping all over the place or trying to make him look younger than he actually is. But, it's been said, Tobey Maguire was a great Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield was a good Spider-Man. Tom Holland is a good Spider-Man and Peter Parker. And that's what always, like the Sam Raimi one focused on it, and he was a good Peter Parker. And some of the Spider-Man quips were a little but Spider-Man 2 is still my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. And then right next to it is Into the Spider-Verse. And now the live action Spider-Verse, which is Spider-Man No Way Home. Alright, that's going to be the end of this video. I might color this one up. Just kind of been deciding whether or not to monochrome it or actually add color. Just taking a break. Also, like letting the ink dry, because sometimes with the ink, it's gonna mess up the colors because it'll just run past it, and I don't want any of these streaks on this fan art, because I really like this one. It's the colibri, aka the hummingbird, guiding Joe home, because that was what Nomad was about. And that's why I talked about Spider-Man for a long time, because while he had no way home and now he's alone, Joe found his way back home. He found his way back home to the kids, to the gym, to Pops, and to his destiny. Joe is the people's champion in the most truest way than he can be. He gave people hope and inspiration. And Gearless Joe is this giant myth. But the man known as Joe, he's gonna be okay, because he's home now. So hopefully you guys enjoyed your time being home. And that's something that really has affected people during the pandemic. It's like, oh, I wanted to be here and there and there. And it's kind of like the opposite now because for the longest time, everyone always wanted to get home for the holidays. They always wanted to, get back together with the family. And some people had that for the last 2 years, and you're like, I kind of regret it. I see why I spend a lot of time away from these people. They're fucking insane. So, final thoughts. Best thing, not just anime, but like the music, the story, the visuals. It's my favorite thing of 2021. Here's hoping there's some good things in 2022 and there's not more of this apocalypse pandemic arc that never ends. So with that, I'm looking forward to AEW, New Japan, and what they've got coming out in the beginning of the year. Of course, the highly anticipated final season, part 2 of Attack on Titan, and some other anime. Keep your eye on. One Piece, Demon Slayer is getting real good, and those fights that they're getting into are getting real good. So yeah, I mean, I already drew a bunch of stuff that I really liked in 2021 and I talked about, but I don't feel like I've given enough love to this because I love it. Megalo Box Season 2 Nomad, I love it. Alright, that's going to be it for me. Enjoy your day. Sayonara.